Namaste Bharat and welcome to Special Focus on Nation First English with me, Prerna Tirupati. The new Twitter CEO, Parag Agarwal, is in the news after his recent appointment, but for all the wrong reasons. Dalit activist Tenmoli Soundararajan, along with a few white supremacists, is now busy targeting the newly appointed Twitter CEO Parag Agarwal over caste by tweeting and recording podcasts on the subject.
Jai Bhim and Jai Savitri, everyone. My name is Tenmoli Soundararajan, and I wanted to invite you to my new podcast, Caste in the United States. This podcast explores some of the more nuanced and difficult conversations that we need to have around caste and the ways that we are seeing it replicate itself.
Not only did Tenmoli Soundararajan and her ilk publicly display their stupidity and ignorance by falsely assuming Parag Agarwal to be a Brahmin, but they also viciously targeted him and abused him for allegedly being a Brahmin. Funnily, Tenmoli went on to the extent of claiming that it is a tradition for white cis men to transfer power to Brahmin cis men in the Silicon Valley. She said on Twitter, in the grand Silicon Valley tradition of white cis men passing the torch to Brahmin cis men, Jack Dorsey is stepping down and Parag Agarwal is the new CEO of Twitter. He will also remain silent about caste ? Now the question is, who is Tenmoli Soundararajan? The same girl who posed with former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey holding a placard "Smash Brahminical Patriarchy" in 2020. Soundararajan began hosting a podcast in 2020 called Caste in the USA, in which she explores caste discrimination at American campuses, offices, and households through conversations with individuals who have first-hand experience with caste in America. According to her Wikipedia page, she is the executive director of the infamous Equality Labs, an Ambedkarite South Asian progressive power building organization that uses community research, culture, and political organizing, popular education, and digital security to fight the oppression of caste, apartheid, Islamophobia, white supremacy, and religious intolerance. Does Equality Lab sound familiar? Cisco caste discrimination case, does it ring a bell? That topic is reserved for another episode. So, how can one single person like Soundararajan or her organization like Equality Labs be fighting so many social issues or causes, and why? To answer this common sense question, let us first understand that all this is happening essentially in the name of critical race theory and intersectionality. Before we delve into this important issue and understand critical race theory and intersectionality, let us first understand that a section of the Western alt-right believes that Indian Brahmins are responsible for everything that is wrong with their country and choose to blame Brahmins for all their problems. So the global spewing of hate against Brahmins stems from here. Indian academicians have been peddling the Hindu-phobic narrative to advocate rampant politicization in the name of caste atrocities against the scheduled castes and tribes, the so-called Dalits, in order to pander to their masters in the West, who funded them generously. What these Indian academicians, better known as brown sepoys, peddle is not just Hindu-phobia, but actual and vicious hate against Hindus, also known as Hindu-mesia. Yes, that's a better term, a more educated and clearer term, Hindu-mesia. One key focus on critical race theorists is a regime of white supremacy and privilege maintained despite the rule of law and the constitutional guarantee of equal protection of all laws. Agreeing with critical race theorists, many feminists also agree that law itself is not a neutral tool, but instead part of the problem. Critical race scholars identify inadequacies of conventional civil rights litigation. Critical race theorists often use the same cookie-cutter model in India as well and equate the white supremacist oppressor to the Brahmin supremacist who automatically is assumed to be the oppressor in India owing to the common Westerners' warped knowledge or misconception of caste hierarchy, where these Westerners consider Brahmins as the supreme caste, whereas Shudras or Dalits are considered as the lowest, and thus the most oppressed according to this critical race theory. So, what is intersectionality? Intersectionality is the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender as they apply to a given individual or group, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. Through an awareness of intersectionality, we can better acknowledge and ground the differences among us, is what the CRT or critical race theorists or peddlers believe. So this is the meaning of intersectionality. Let us look at some examples. We all witness how protesters at the Delhi farmers' protests were holding placards demanding justice for Dalits at the actual site of farmers' protests against the 3 farm laws passed by the government of India. This was a clear example of intersectionality. Strange and ironic, since an actual Dalit man, Lakhbir Singh, was lynched to death by these same farm protesters. If the LGBTQI crowds would have also joined in at the farmers' protests, it would have been the best display of how intersectionality works, the ultimate in oppression Olympics. Another example. It was stranger how the LGBTQI activists crowd was completely supporting the anti-CAA protests and demanding the government of India to scrap the Citizenship Amendment Bill or at least include citizenship for Muslims as well from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh. It was another public display of their collective stupidity and ignorance. Quite embarrassing for them protesters actually, considering that the oppressed Dalit minority from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh benefit the most from the Citizenship Amendment Bill. Also, the leftist LGBTQI activists completely fail to understand that Islam strongly condemns them, and Muslim Sharia law directly orders the beheading of LGBTQI persons. Hinduism and the Hindu society alone is the most tolerant and inclusivist when it comes to LGBTQIs, and no Abrahamic faith accepts it. Only Hinduism does. Oh well, let us know what you think of this video, and please do share your valuable thoughts in the comment section below. For more such views, news, reviews and updates, please do watch and subscribe to Nation First English. Do like and share our videos with your family and friends to spread maximum awareness. See you soon in another episode. Jai Hind.